The Mannin Line with Andy Wint.
Master Mai, good afternoon. Welcome to Mannin Line on Manx Radio. Last Friday, we spoke with Kerry Sharp, MLC, the Isle of Man Children's Champion, and Laurie Hooper, MHK, DHSC Minister, talking about children in care, what we can do, what we are doing, what we should be doing, and if there's anything you'd like to follow up on that, then by all means do get in touch. But lots of stuff in the news to talk today. Including just recently released a comprehensive independent RSE curriculum report. It was an independent report into the relationships and sex education curriculum, talked to QE2. It's been made public. It's a 50-page report recommending that RSE lessons should resume, but calls for better communication with parents and specialist trainers for teachers to be in place first. So again, if you've spotted that, and it'll be up on the Manx Radio news page at manxradio.com fairly shortly, but 50-odd pages. Sadly, as it only appeared 10 minutes ago, I've only had a chance to read a few pages from it, but we'll get to that. Julian's first on today. Hi, Julian.
Hi, Andy. I shall be reading that myself. I shall be scouring every word of it.
Okay.
Couple of points. Did you see the recent article in the Daily Mail about what's going on in Kirby Misperton in North Yorkshire?
No, what is it?
The article is called Heat by Gum. Kirby Misperton is repurposing a site originally earmarked for fracking into a geothermal power station. It's going to extract heat from hot rocks, as Tony mentioned the other day, at a depth of 1.8 miles, or about a third the depth needed for drilling oil, using a closed-loop brine water system, so it's all closed up, no extras needed. There'll be no impact on geology. The water table, nature, the view or vibration problems will be removed and will provide the double benefits of electricity and hot water for local district heating.
So had they drilled already for the fracking that they've abandoned?
Yeah, it's coming up now. It's a trial, but they're going to run it till October, and they're going to see what their yields are. But it's one of 680 sites that have been identified so far in the UK as suitable for geothermal power and hot water.
I wonder whether that's going to be the kind of get out of jail, because everybody seems to be entirely against fracking, bearing in mind what it does. So this could be a way to use the sites and not have any of that, the earthquakes that they got in Blackpool.
Yeah, I mean, you end up with a hut sitting over it with, or you can make something nice. If you had it on the Isle of Man, I should imagine a nice Manx stone thing with a Manx emblem on the front would be quite nice. Another point is about going green, or specifically Go Green. I mentioned the other day that the UK National Grid has recently published the power generation figures for all the on- and offshore commercial wind farms for the last year in 2022. And altogether, they averaged about 30% capacity, or the amount of time over the year that they were available. But the onshore wind farms averaged about 18%, because you've got hills and trees in the distance and all this kind of stuff, and buildings. So I'm a bit puzzled by Go Green's assertion that the Erie Staine site would provide a capacity figure of not 18%, but 74%, which is 4 times more than any of the UK onshore averages shown by the National Grid. And they also go on to say that a wind farm on the island like Erie Staine would result in electricity prices reducing by 10 times. They mention a report that states these incredible figures, but no details of this report or its title are forthcoming. I was just wondering, Andy, if you might invite Go Green CEO Stephen Elkins onto the programme to give us a bit more detailed information. I noticed it because Michelle Hayward has been repeating Go Green's claims in the public domain. And I'd also be interested to know how the price will drop by 10 times when you consider that Bloomberg has been reporting that the wind industry is currently demanding a 2.5 times hike in the price that they can charge.
10 times lower than what it is now? How does that work out?
Yeah, the assertion is that if you put these wind turbines up, it will be 1/10 of the cost of what Paul Rose is spending on doing the gas at the minute.
Good grief.
Yeah, I know. I always saw that. I was reading this and I was thinking, I think perhaps if Michelle Hayward as an MHK is forwarding this on, we might want to get to the bottom of this before anything happens, because if they're being told that this thing's going to produce 4 times more than the reality, well, we need to sort of make sure that doesn't happen, because 18% is the going rate of availability across the year on and onshore, so 74% seems kind of high.
Well, you would think if this would guarantee that electricity prices will be a fraction of what they are now, and they would guarantee that amount of coverage and that amount of wind, surely we should be running towards it if it's true.
Well, yeah. And, Howard made a very interesting point the other week when he was talking about the cables under the sea warming up the water. So I had a little look into that, and if you say Paul Rose, you're literally where the distribution area is. So you've got a bit of copper, or a large amount of copper, but it goes straight into the distribution. So the loss in the copper from the power generator to the network is about 1% on your average power station. But when you've got turbines either out at sea, up to 25 miles away with the Walney one, or even Erie Staine is 12 miles away from Douglas, the loss is about 17% with the amount of copper. Imagine 17 miles of copper is going to be warming up underneath the floor or across on the overheads. No wonder the crows like sitting on them in the wintertime. So you have to factor in that they may be talking about, the capacity factor of the turbine itself. But if you've got all the power generation miles and miles away, you've got to bring that power down long lengths of copper. It's not for nothing. The copper is warming up, just like Howard said, the toaster elements, they get hot with that amount coming through them.
Have you seen the news as well that Ørsted seem to be moving forward now with their offshore wind farm on the Isle of Man?
Yeah, but, now that New Jersey are asking questions about why there's been 60 whale beachings instead of 1 or 2 a year, they've now put a halt on it now, and Ørsted's share price has dropped 27% this week. I think it's dropped to a value of 8 billion loss. So it makes you wonder. There are a lot of people in the industry that I've spoken to saying this is not boding well for the wind industry with these kind of losses, 27% in a week.
But, there are hundreds of wind farms and offshore wind farms around the world now. We've got 2 of them right next to us now. We've got the Walney one and the one just off the Wirral off North Wales. So these things are there. They're there. They're producing electricity. Surely they're not just going to take them down. Well,
it's very expensive to maintain. Both of them are expensive to maintain. As I mentioned the other day with the shedding of those microplastics, if you imagine a bit like a prop on a boat, after time, the friction through the water or catching it on something, they get thinner and you get less propulsion, so you have to change the prop at some point. Well, these turbine blades are losing about 3% of their power every year, according to a study from the University of Lancaster. So that's why every 5 years they've got to get guys on long ropes to shimmy down them and rub them down and then re-epoxy them with this toxic stuff they use.
So what do you think we should do on the Isle of Man, Julian, if wind farms onshore aren't the right idea, if that's your opinion, and if offshore's not the right idea, what do we do?
Well, my opinion is that there's nothing wrong anyway. Ask Australia why it's had 2 of the coldest years in living memory, or Tasmania. or explain why there's a guy, I think, who's in trouble on Antarctica and they're having to put one of the largest icebreakers to get to him. I thought the ice was all gone in the Antarctica, but anyway. But, things like making sure that the Paul Rose Power Station combustors are serviced so that, we at least got some sort of backup. Geothermal, once it's in, it goes for at least, Lardarello's been going over, I think it was celebrating 118 years or something, that's not non-stop, and they've built other ones around it since. So, and you haven't got any overhead afterwards, or it's just it's like a big radiator a couple of miles underground.
Okay, if we're committed to, and the government's committed to, heading towards net zero and a certain amount of renewables before 2026. Do you think the government would see fit to just abandon that, or now they're on train to do it? Do you think they're going to deliver it in some way?
Well, I have to say, from what I'm looking at, if you sign a contract with somebody, but the product has been misrepresented, then the contract's null and void, and then a lot of people would go to trading standards, wouldn't they, if something's not what's being advertised?
Okay. All right, Julian, I appreciate that. Thanks for calling today.
Thanks, Andy. Cheers.
All right. Zurich Car Insurance has stopped renewing car insurance to Isle of Man residents. Did you know this? We were contacted by a resident who said that Zurich wasn't renewing their car insurance and got a letter to confirm that when his insurance this year was finished, Zurich car insurance would no longer be available to Isle of Man residents. We contacted Zurich to inquire why this was the case, and they said to us, this is Zurich, by the way, we regularly review our underwriting approach for every risk factor, location being one of these. As a result, we stopped offering standard car insurance to customers in the Isle of Man at the end of 2022. This is Zurich. And Zurich, we also got a letter in from the Civil Service Insurance Society in Maidstone in Kent. Zurich had advised them that they're no longer able to cover IM postcodes and therefore unable to offer a renewal. CSIS, that's the Civil Service Insurance Society, has a panel of insurers and will be happy to look for an alternative provider. I don't know about you or whether you were ever involved in insurance, or maybe you are in insurance. So Zurich is reviewing risk factors on the Isle of Man, and they don't offer insurance. Presumably they offer insurance to people in large cities in the UK, where the incidence of vehicle theft is, I would imagine, thousands of % higher than it is on the Isle of Man, where the case of, and certainly in some inner cities, there's a problem with spurious claims, i.e. conflated and confected shunts, where people swear blind somebody hit them in the back and then drove off, and then that happens. Is something behind all this? Is Zurich just not bothering with the Isle of Man? Because surely their underwriters look at what are the risks of driving on the Isle of Man? What's the risk to any sort of vehicle? The darn things never get stolen. We don't have multiple pile-ups like there are on motorways. If you're in insurance, I'd love to know this. This is Zurich, who now aren't insuring people on the Isle of Man for cars. We regularly review our underwriting approach for every risk factor, location being one of these. I don't think there's been a basking shark attack on cars lately. We've not had marauding seagulls or Manx chuffs zooming down and hitting windscreens. What's the risk factor with driving a vehicle on the Isle of Man? My child starts high school on Wednesday, and we were told that he'd been accepted for a free school bus pass. We heard nothing from them until I contacted them, as my friend had received hers Thursday last week for her daughter. Both myself and partner have disabilities. We were told that because we live 0.9 miles away, my son will not get one of these. If we lived across the road, he would. Myself and other professionals agree this is outrageous, said Victoria. And thanks for that point. If you know if your child has got a free bus pass, what's the limit on where they can get a bus pass? And regarding, we had a post about 3 damaged motorcycles on the Manxman, I think it was. Apparently, the steam packet's investigating the incident. Bob dropped a note in to say it was reported 9 motorcycles had fallen over and damaged by the end of the crossing. I was concerned with the steam packet's insurer's response in refuting liability to one of the owners who submitted a damage claim. The insurer stated that the steam packet had tied the bikes down in accordance with company policy. The letter went on to say damage incurred during a crossing is the liability of the owner, who's required to then claim on their own insurance. This, along with the fares, that's £300 plus for motorbikes, plus one, is another nail in the coffin of the MGP and the TT. I wasn't on the crossing, says Bob, but I'm a frequent traveller with car and motorcycle. In future, I won't be complying with the crew instructing me to park within a couple of inches of other cars. I'm hoping we can highlight this issue. If you've driven on the boat lately, particularly if you've had a bike, how is this? A note out from Phil, who just says, my blood boils. Phil, calm down. Come on, it's a nice day. It's a beautiful day, in fact, and a beautiful cruise liner in the bay. And again, it's a Monday, and you know what Monday means, don't you? Whether it's a beautiful day or a beautiful cruise liner, no horse trams. We've heard all the excuses, but this island is going backwards. Surely we need a leader that takes the bull by the horns and makes the island attractive again. Surely the Manx government will wake up. Well, the government issued the list of all the dates when there were to be cruise liners coming to the Isle of Man, and the horse trams have got the day off. If you're from that beautiful cruise liner in Douglas Bay at the moment, we do have horse trams. They've just got the day off. So there we are. I know, what would you say? The Oyster share price is down 20% because of apparently a supply chain problem and a less favourable US tax credit regime, says Andy. Apparently, it's nothing to do with the whales. WHALES, in case you're asking. Supply chain problems and a less favourable US tax credit regime. Chris in Colby says, surely geothermal is the way to go. Well, as at the moment, we haven't had, I'll be honest with you, we haven't had geothermal fans or geothermal experts beating a path to the door of the government saying, you should do this. Maybe it's because, and it's been said many times before, maybe it's because there's not a lot of money in geothermal. Apart from you set the whole thing up. Yes. You set the whole thing up. You prime it with water. Takes water to fill it, and then it just goes round and round in a circle like a big kettle. Water goes down into the earth, hits the hot rocks, heats up, comes back up like billio, and you fire a turbine. So there isn't a lot of ongoing cost, and it doesn't make that much mess. So maybe that's why big companies aren't in geothermal, because you can't make ongoing millions. Who's telling the truth over climate change? Can we get some experience and expert opinions? Says, I think that is, cheers, Pammy, that is. Pammy, are you an expert? The trouble is, everybody's an expert, aren't they? Everybody has an opinion. And, of course, half the experts are on the payroll of somebody somewhere. Certainly, lecturers and scientists are not immune from getting grants for research. And it depends which way's which. I'll be honest with you, I've almost stopped trying to take notice of experts because you never know on whose side they are. I mean, I listen to them, and I'm sure you listen to them, but we have been battered with expert opinion, haven't we? We've been pummeled with people telling us one thing, people telling us another. People telling us there's a climate crisis, but if it's a crisis, why isn't the Isle of Man doing something quick? I mean, quick crisis normally means, the hot water tanks burst. Or in the winter, a pipe's frozen. That's a crisis, and you have to do something there and then. At the moment, we don't seem to be doing something there and then. It might be the garage prices that have put Zurich off insuring the Isle of Man. My car can get her car fixed far cheaper in the UK. than in the Isle of Man. At least we have a green island. You can't beat a nice green island, says Des. That's very true. You can't beat a nice green island. Wilf's on with us now. Hi, Wilf.
Hi, I just want to bang on about my beach again, Andy. I was down. I went down to have a look on Sunday, and I lost count of 250 people, and the tide was in, big tide, so there's very little beach left, and the kids and the people were walking about trying to find somewhere to sit down on a bit of sand instead of sticks and seaweed and rubbish. They will not clean the beach. I just, well, I'm saying I can't understand it. I got my own ideas, but DEFRA's doing nothing. I've got no help with the rest of the commissioners. Nobody seems to be bothered. Only me.
What did
I won't give up.
What were the people on the beach? Did they say anything about it, or were they just trying to park away from it?
No, they're picking away amongst it and shoveling a bit away with the best they can with their feet to get a bit of sand to sit on. It's rotten seaweed, sticks, bits of wood, branches of trees, and now stuff is growing on it again. The grass and the weeds are growing on it again. I've been promised a photograph, which I will blow up. I'll send you a copy, actually, of what the beach should look like, how it was when we were looking after it. I mean, we're the dirtiest beach on the Isle of Man. Everywhere else is clean. Peel, Port End, I believe, has got a machine to do it now. But we can't even afford to put a digger down to scrape it.
And I would imagine there are quite a few people there today as well.
Well, I lost count of 150 people. And if you take it, it's a triangle shape. But if you took it and measured it out, it would be 100 square yards, I would think. So you can imagine how tightly they were packed together. And the sea was full of swimmers, kayakers, people jumping off the pier, all that sort of stuff. And, well, it's just, I don't know, I despair. I shall lay into them again at the next meeting.
Good. Oh, before you go, Wilf, I have to tell you, I had about half a dozen phone calls after the show on Friday just saying they really appreciated your comments about your sister.
Oh, thank you. Thank you very much. But she was rather a special person.
All right. Okay. All right. Well, thanks for that. Good to hear from you.
Right, bye-bye.
Cheers now, 29 minutes past 12. In case you missed it, Wilf called up on Friday just to talk about his sister, who'd been a long-time foster carer and had fostered dozens and dozens of children, and that seems to have happened with many people. If you've got any tales to tell, by the way, about long-term foster care in the past, then by all means do. Certainly, it was a very lively programme on Friday with Laurie Hooper and Kerry Sharp, Kerry the children's champion, and we will certainly talk more about that again in the future, and the fact that she mentioned there's 79 children in care on the Isle of Man, and if we're using agency social workers, that will cost a lot more. So whether or not we can actually teach, educate and qualify our own social workers on the Isle of Man, it will be interesting to know and to find out. Hello 762, how would it work out if an MHK's motorcycle got damaged on the steam packet? Do MHKs get free travel, by the way? Would they have to claim it off their insurance? I don't know. Maybe you know far more than I do. A note in from Bill, who just said, I think the clue is in that we review various factors. This is Zurich, who aren't insuring vehicles. As soon as, if you're insured by Zurich, when it expires, you won't get a renewal. So we review the various factors, including location. I don't think this has anything to do with location, says Bill. Possibly an extension of the credit and debit card companies withdrawing from the Isle of Man. The processes and procedures procedures for recovering civil debt different and weaker. Hence, it's just a bit too difficult to do this, says Bill. So this is the whole point of the reason that some credit card companies and debit card companies aren't issuing on the Isle of Man, is that it's difficult to recover civil debt, as it were, out of jurisdiction if they're located in the UK or headquartered in the UK to recover civil debt. If somebody defaults on a debt on a debit or credit card, it's difficult to get it, because of course we're a different jurisdiction. So it's the naughty people who are defaulting that are tarring the rest of us. But anyway, that's it. Zurich Insurance, you can absolutely forget it where that's concerned. Eddie's on now. Hi, Eddie.
Hiya, you all right?
Good, thanks. Yeah, it's a lovely day.
I know, absolutely gorgeous. A bit too hot for work, but never mind. Did you get my video?
What was it? Which one was it about?
About the wind farms.
Oh, I did, yes, thank you.
Yes, pleasure. What's struck me very funny is I wonder if, say for instance, I was a Green Party, or any member of the Green Party. I'm just one of the general public, and in the space of a few months I've found out that there is absolutely nothing whatsoever green about wind turbines. Are they going to still carry on backing the wind turbines?
Well, at the moment, it seems. I mean, you know, first of all, they said it's got to be with us by 2026. When we asked them, they said by the end of 2026. There's an election in September 2026, so you kind of get the feeling that, you know, some of them may not be in for the next election. So, and getting, I mean, if we were to, you know what planning's like on the Isle of Man, but trying to design two wind farms, either one at the head of the Solby Valley or one at Iristane in the south, getting it planned, you know, getting it designed, getting the things on the Isle of Man, putting them up and getting them, and that's only half of the problem. You've got to connect them into the infrastructure, into the grid. Yeah. So, the two places they're going to put them aren't entirely close to substations. So,
well, here's a little thing, Andy. Right? Maybe, hopefully, all the green people will be listening to this. In the late 70s, I met a guy. His name was Tony O'Sullivan, smashing fella. Got to know him, did bits of building for him. And his ambition was to renovate Golden Meadow Mill in Castletown.
Yeah.
Whilst I was there doing bits and pieces, made good friends with him and everything, and I helped him out to do some of the stuff voluntarily. It's a brilliant place. I think there's a Heritage Day sometime in September if anybody's interested. But while I was there, I got to know how it worked and everything. And down by the Silverburn River, there's a little sluice gate. It's about 2 foot square. They take a little bit of water from the river whenever the mill race needs topping up, which is a lake. Very little water. They use the water then to drive a water wheel. And that water wheel drove the whole mill, which did every bit of grain for the whole of the south of the island. And then, green people listen, the water, which did the job in the first place, is returned back to the river as clean as it went when they took it out. So probably water is the cleanest, greenest thing you've ever heard of. And we've already got the technology with turbines up at the dam. We've got the technology for, is it Archimedes Screw, is it? I think that's used all over Britain in small streams to power businesses, factories, everything. So, you know, when somebody earlier was talking about we haven't really got all the technicians. The technical data is already there. History is almost repeating itself. And yet, for some unknown reason, they seem to be hell-bent on going down the path of something which is highly toxic, I didn't even realise that the balsa in them comes from the Amazon when they're cutting down a football field a day just to get balsa. You know, everything about one is bad, but everything about water is good. You know, why can't the green people sort of, you know, stand up and be counted now and say, yeah, that makes sense to me. I already know these things because it's history. Don't you?
Okay. Thanks for calling us today. We appreciate that.
Before you go, Andy.
Go on, yeah.
Yeah, I gave you a ring I think it was last Thursday or Friday. I was driving into Port Erin and I saw a brown box in the middle of the road, so I stopped, had a look, and inside the box is a spanking brand new stainless steel tubes for a flue, I would imagine. So if anybody's actually lost it off the back of a wagon, I've actually got it at home.
It's a brown cardboard box with stainless steel tubes in it.
Stainless steel flue tubes, it looks like a flue because it's got like a half-round cap in at the top of it. Right. So I would imagine it's a gas flue or a log burner flue or something like that. But it would probably be 100-odd quid's worth, I would imagine. Okay. Do
you want to give your number out or do you want them to call me? What's your number?
You can give it 263605.
263605. Okay. All right. Thanks, Eddie.
Thanks, Andy. Okay, mate. Bye.
Good to hear from you. All government vehicles are insured with Zurich. Is that true? How I know is my car was damaged by a government vehicle and you can't get any help from the government. You have to go through a call centre in India. And when I gave my postcode, they told me it didn't exist. Took me months to get this sorted out, says Robbie on 7... Is that Richie or Robbie on 773? Anyway, thanks for that. Good to hear from you. An underwriting decision probably driven by data, says Paul B. How many deaths happen on the Isle of Man due to TT and MGP? We probably have a high proportionate road death rate because, is it TT's fault, is it? It's Juan. Oh, hi, Juan.
What a beautiful day, Andy.
I can't believe you're inside, Juan, on a day like today. I thought you'd be outside.
You assume that I'm inside. People assume where I am. I'm just ready to get my kayak out. I'm not going to tell anyone where I'm going because they might pop it and pull it at me or something.
You're not going prospecting for Kroger, are you, in your kayak?
Sussed it out, haven't you? You sussed it out. Undercover. I was under. You've blown my cover. Just touching on briefly on a bit of housekeeping from Friday with what Kerry Sharp said, quite interesting in the first bits on her reply to me on the sex education policy. That was quite encouraging and until I think she had her mother's hat on to start with, and then halfway through she put her politician's hat on.
Well, I thought Kerry Sharp was very honest, and I mean she did. You're quite right. She basically gave two opinions, and that, if you like, illustrates both sides of the case.
It does, but it also illustrates a politician. It's sit on the fence. Sometimes I think when you've got strong stuff to sort out, you've got to come down on a side and not sit on a fence. And I think that's where we ended up on that. I was very pleased in what she said at the start of it, but then, like I said, she went off. But I'm going to hold on that one because this 10, was it 50 pages you said that's just been released?
It is. It came out at 5 to 12.
5 to 12, so there you go. Just missed the show. We'll have a view of that, and we'll talk more in depth about what specialists they're going to do and whatever. Just going on the geothermal route, there's quite a few people. There's some very good people in government working in the civil service, and a few of them are starting to red flag up and worry about the future and what's happening. And I think like a lot of other things, there seems to be timelines on everything. They seem to try and rush things through, so there's no thought time given. And that seems to be the thing with this. They're meeting like agendas from non-elected people and pushing this through. I mean, that would be kind of like maybe, producing a vaccine and pushing it through before people had a chance to look at it, as an example maybe. But we haven't got a lot of money left to be spending on these things. And I keep thinking, like you said before, Andy, with geothermal, there's no money in it. But the government's supposed to be working for the people. I'm correct in that, I think. And the energy would be for the people. So what profit does there need to be in it? I mean, if it's going to be on island, it's not on the seabeds, doesn't belong to the Crown, it's on island, we would be totally self-sufficient. And is that what's worrying other jurisdictions, that we would have too much control over our energy and such like then would be able to farm, we'd be able to do all the e-gaming, all the cryptocurrency, we'd be able to do a fantastic amount if we had very, very cheap energy.
Again, this comes down to where the political will is. And at the moment, you can find experts on wind turbines, onshore and offshore wind turbines. They're coming out of the rafters everywhere because everybody's into it. Because, at the end of it, there's a political agenda. That's the political direction of travel. And, of course, not surprisingly, there are billions of euros and dollars and pounds and yen and rubles in the whole thing. And like I think I mentioned this before, anyone who looks at investments, they were seeing this triggering off maybe 10 years ago when they were asking people to invest in the next great thing. So if the green energy thing crashed in any way, it would leave a massive big black hole in the market, maybe another 2008 recession, because there's so much invested into it. And again, we're following the money trail. Not exactly beneficial to us, maybe. If people look at what's happening in South Africa with blackouts and stuff, we might be going back in time rather than progressing if we get the wrong thing here. And it concerns me that, it's come from many avenues now, that they are rushing this through with not doing the correct procedures to check on these things. I think you just mentioned before they're doing exploratory work on the sea for this wind turbines. Did you just mention that before? And they've not done that at Evistein. They've not put up the pole and done the wind checks, etc. It just seems to be very, very rushed. And like I said before, we haven't got a lot of money left to be playing with this stuff and get it wrong. Okay. All right. Thanks, Stuart.
Take care, Andy.
Good to hear from you. William's on now. Hi, William.
Good morning. Oh, it's good afternoon now, isn't it?
It is. It's afternoon.
I'd like to endorse the comments made by the gentleman before about water power.
Oh, that was Eddie, yes.
Yeah, well, let's just go and look at Laxey and how Laxey was in Victorian times and how they powered their machinery there at that time. The big Isabella that ran the pumps for the mine. Down below that, there was 2 water wheels in the washing floor that cleaned the ore that came out the ground. There was weaving sheds there that ran on water, and I'm told that the Laxey Glen flour mills also ran on water, all from a comparatively small water supply coming down through the valley. Maybe it's time for a bit of lateral thinking, boy, eh?
You would have thought so. You would have thought so, William.
Everybody's sort of going very, very fast into the new technology. And the new technology isn't all that new because windmills, if you go to flat places like Norfolk, there was loads and loads of them. Water mills, wheels that drove factories. There's a factory, well, it was a factory, it's a museum, now it's Style, near Manchester Airport, and that runs on a water wheel. Maybe it's time to just stop, pull back a bit, and think for a bit longer instead of jumping like we are at the moment.
Okay. William, I appreciate that. Thanks for being with us.
Thank you. Bye-bye. 1:45
on Manx Radio now. You would have thought, and I don't know, is it just me, but we've got the largest working water wheel in the world. when it was done up, why didn't they put a dynamo next to it? If the darn thing is just sitting there, why not do something with it? Is it just me? I don't know. Crikey, I wonder. You got any thoughts?
Get your tickets now for this season's range of onboard dining events featuring old favourites like the legendary Pie and Mash Train, the Curry Club and more, including memorable dining experiences on one of our Steam theme events with something for everyone. To find out what's cooking on the dining car or to book, call 697 457 or visit rail.im.
Do you know, Dave, the Q Plus counter always has just what I need. Whatever plumbing job I'm working on, whether a state-of-the-art bathroom or the latest heating system, Q Plus always help. With extensive supplies, friendly, knowledgeable service and great prices, it really is the one-stop shop for trade and DIY customers alike. And if they don't have what you want in stock, they'll find it for you. See for yourself. Just take a look at Q Plus on Facebook.
Ramsey, Douglas, Castletown and Peel, the Ferry Bridge and Laxey Wheel, Point of Ayr to the Sound of Man. Explore the island with Camperman. Whether it's an island staycation, a trip to the UK or a tour of Europe, do it in style with Camperman Luxury Motorhome Hire. Fabulous accommodation, the open road and stunning views await you. Start planning your dream adventure. Call Camperman Luxury Motorhome Hire now on 30 40 87 or find us on Facebook.
What a challenging few years for all businesses. At Nicola Bowker & Co, we're proud to be in your corner. But even more proud of the local businesses who have adapted with new technology and prepared for the future. Nicola Bowker & Co.
Do you know a scrap man? 'Cause I've got scrap to clear. Cars in copper, brass and lead, and I need cash for beer.
What? You don't know a scrap man? Gastains of Vauxhall is the one for you. Gastains will take all scrap metal and is also licensed for dry cell and lead acid batteries. So don't delay. Ring 801 337 now.
So now we know a scrap man and all our scrap's been cleared. Ring 801 337, then have cash for beer. Call Costays today and get yourself a beer.
Are you concerned about your eye health? Holmes & Davidson Opticians in Douglas are proud to offer the Eidon Ultra-Wide Field Retinal Imaging and Heidelberg 4D OCT systems, state-of-the-art machines that allow early detection and management of eye diseases. Don't wait. Book your appointment today and ensure the health of your eyes with the best technology available. Call 676 230 or visit holmesanddavidsonopticians.co.uk now.
Heating oil for homes, powering farms and businesses, keeping you moving with petrol stations across the island. Ellen Vannin Fuels. Call us on 84 4000.
Welcome to the Ramsey Park Hotel, where there's always a warm welcome and something to enjoy. Nestling beside Murock Lake with sea views towards Cumbria, the Ramsey Park Hotel is a stunning destination for your staycation. Take advantage of a fabulous 2-night stay with a glass of champagne on arrival, dinner for 2 nights accommodation and breakfast, all for just £290. For more news on food, offers and events, call 818 123 or visit the Ramsey Park Hotel on Facebook.
The Mannin Line with Andy Wint.
Fast am I. Good afternoon. Note into Steam Packet denied anything happened to the bikes on the boat last week, says Fred. And a message in, it appears that the current government are doing a very good imitation of Nero fiddling while Rome burned, says Ian. There's a lot of hot air, but nobody appears to be actually doing anything positive. We're just lurching along. The news on today's programme about Zurich car insurance coming on top of Manx residents being denied credit cards just illustrates nobody's taking control of the situation. And the Manx public is suffering from this, says Ian. A note in from, I think it's U839. You was talking last Friday about the DHSC using agency workers for social workers for childcare on the Isle of Man. This note is, and I'll just tell you what it says. You can make of it what you will. DHSC adults with learning disabilities are also using agency workers in daycare. 10 a week at what they cost, and obviously DHSC have to train them up at our expense. But they don't work for DHSC, so they go back to the agency absolutely trained, and then next time send out a different bunch. They have to be trained at our expense. Agency then has trained staff at our expense, and we're paying them. Well, we'll find out whether or not that's true. We'll certainly ask Manx Care and DHSC about that, whether or not we're training people. And again, more people telling me that government vehicles are insured with Zurich. A bus hit my car. It was a nightmare. The bus company apparently didn't care. The Isle of Man government didn't care. And dealing with Zurich in India has been a nightmare. The Isle of Man government should get it together. 142, that's Joanne. With NHS dental services only available to a lucky few and waiting lists are stratospheric, why can't the Treasury make private dentists and dental care and emergency remedial work tax deductible? So if you have to have stuff done and the NHS can't cope, get it done privately and take it off your tax. Oh, and the emergency service, the community health is just that. They will stick a plaster on, but that's about it. Oh, I also got a note in, if you know the community health centre on Westmoreland Road going into Kensington Road, somebody sent me a great photo. Their hedge is halfway across the pavement. And they said, you would have thought if that's a government building, they'd just send somebody out with some hedge clippers. The hedge outside the community health centre is halfway across the pavement. Nobody would care what a small island with 80,000 people do to get their energy needs. I think we should look into geothermal, says 653. And if it doesn't cost much, so much the better. It won't cost us much. And if it doesn't work, what the heck? What have we lost? Before going for wind turbines, but believing that geothermal will cover all bases is wrong. We need a mix of sources, says this correspondent. And Desmond says, Andy, it comes down to money. Those with the money, people expect what to tell us, so it looks great to save the world. The words are there. Thing is, the world has gone through many a hard time, but we're all still here, says Desmond. It was suggested that a turbine was put on a sewer plant exit pipe at Santon 10 years ago. And Desmond said, stop talking sense, you get people confused. I don't know about that. It's true, Laxey Wheel is meant to be working, but it's not just sitting there looking nice. It could provide us energy. It could provide industry and help stop the floods, says Texter 775. Who can we nominate as our Manx Don Quixote when the windmills go up, said today. Oh, ye of little faith, David. You never know. The windmills may be our complete saviour. Imagine a generator on the side of Laxey Wheel. That'd be some power there. Simple, though, isn't it? Big banks are forcing the green agenda. Billions are to be made, says Richard, so there's no common sense. Well, there is money to be made, and we'll accept this. Remember, the Industrial Revolution was based on finance. People made money industrialising processes. It put lots of people out of work. The Luddites didn't think too much of it, but that was the basis. The Industrial Revolution made money, cost money, and it polluted as well. Let's not forget that. The reason we've got heavy metal coming down the River Neb into Peel Harbour is because of those mines at Foxdale. So it made money at the time. Sure, it made money, but there is a cost to all this. And when people talk about green electricity, and the one kind of panacea at the back of all this is have nuclear electricity. There's just the small matter of the spent nuclear rods and what you do with them. Have you registered for the 2023 Isle of Man Government Conference? It's 2 weeks on Thursday. You're encouraged to register for the event to engage with the government, guest speakers in conversation surrounding education, skills, finance, government budgets, housing and infrastructure. Now, we're going to have somebody there with a Manx radio microphone, but it's absolutely free of charge. Takes place on the evening of Wednesday the 20th 20th. That's a fortnight on Wednesday, 6 till 8:40 p.m. on Wednesday evening, and all day Thursday 21st at the Villa Marina, bringing together guest speakers, stakeholders, thought leaders, whatever they are, to discuss issues, and you're encouraged to share your view. You are more than welcome to be there. So they're focusing on education and skills on Wednesday, and finance and budgets and housing and infrastructure on the Thursday. The agenda comprises presentations on topics including planning, healthcare, economic strategy, as well as question and answer sessions with ministers. They're going to be there. It's an ideal opportunity to actually speak to government ministers and constituency MHKs. There's a full agenda and a link for free registration if you go to islandplan.com conference 23, islandplan.com/conference 23. You're able to attend the full day or join an individual session, and it is absolutely free registration for the Isle of Man Government Conference. That's a fortnight on Wednesday and a fortnight on Thursday. So it's Wednesday evening and all day Thursday, and it's at the Villa Marina. And they'd love to see you there. Got a WhatsApp in from 775. All this uproar about the proposed wind turbines, nobody's noticed there's a planning application for 2 wind turbines to be installed at Mannin, the very large house, ex-Nigel Mansell's place. I think that's in the Whitaker portfolio now, isn't it? These may be visible from all over Port Erin. The notice is, thank you for sending that notice. I'll forward that to the newsroom. In 2000, renewables produced 2% of UK electricity. In 2023, 40%. Thank you, Steve. Thanks for the information. Thanks to Chris Quirk on the phones today. We're back with another open line tomorrow at midday on Manx Radio.
WINT.